What's up guys, Johnny May here and welcome to today's quick tip where I'm going to teach you my all-time favorite jazz chord. I think this is the most beautiful jazz chord, and in today's lesson I'm not only going to teach you this chord but how you can use it in almost any jazz chord progression. So let's go ahead and dive in. All right, we're going to start with a super common jazz chord progression called the 2-5-1 chord progression, and then I'm going to teach you how you can use this gorgeous chord on this progression. So the 2-5-1 in C, we have a D minor 7 chord, then you have like a G7 chord, and then you have a C major 7. Okay, it's called the 2-5-1, and it's used in tons of tunes. You know, someday when I'm awfully low, right? 2-5-1. So this is a really important progression to know. So how do you take this progression and make it sound super gorgeous? Well, check this out. There's my 2 chord, and then here is the money chord. Doesn't that sound gorgeous? I absolutely love the sound of this chord. So basically on the first chord, I'm on this kind of spread out D minor 7. This is actually called a D minor 11 because I'm stacking thirds. Okay, so I've got the 9 and then I've got the 11, but I'm kind of just spreading the notes out just a little bit. So this is a gorgeous voicing for a minor chord. But here's what I want to show you. This is the really important part. When we get to our G7 chord, instead of playing this kind of ordinary G7, I'm going to play it like this. Doesn't that sound incredible? And basically what this is, it's a G7 chord, but I'm adding some really cool notes to it. I'm adding the A flat, the C sharp, and the E. Okay? So check that chord out, and I like to voice it down here. So I put the root on the bottom, F, A flat, B, C sharp, and E. And then you can do a run up the piano. The way I like to play this run is I'll actually start on the A flat, and I'll do it like this, right? And then I'll go A flat. And so you can just do a quick run up the piano. Like if you're starting a tune and you want to do kind of a beautiful run before the first chord, right before the C, you can do it like that, all right? So in a few minutes, I'm going to teach you how you can use this chord on a really common sort of chord progression. But before we do this, if you're enjoying the video, please hit the like button. And if you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe for more videos just like this. Okay, so there's a quick little formula that I like to use to remember this chord, and it's actually super simple. So if you have a dominant 7 chord, like a G7, all you have to do is revoice the chord 1, 7, flat 9, 3, sharp 11, 13. Now, if these numbers sound a little overwhelming to you, if you're not really familiar with jazz language, don't worry, it will make sense. And in fact, in just a minute here, I'm going to show you a quick little trick that makes this chord a lot easier to play. So what do I mean by 1, 7, flat 9, all these numbers? Well, we're on the G7 chord. I've got the 1 and the 7, and then we're going to do a flat 9, that's like an A flat. We're going to add the third of the chord, the B, the sharp 11. What's the sharp 11? It's the C sharp, right? You can think of this as like a 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, okay? And then the 13 or the 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and you get this gorgeous chord, okay? So this is kind of the formula behind this chord. But as I said earlier, there's a quick little trick to remembering this chord. It's even easier than what I just taught you, and that is to play a C sharp minor over G7. Okay, so check it out. G7, we're going to use root, third, and 7. This is called a chord shell. And then I'm going to play a C sharp minor on the top. There it is. Doesn't that sound cool? And so this makes it much easier to find a chord like this as you just play a minor chord on the G7. Now, which minor chord is this? Well, it's the minor triad built on the sharp 4 of the dominant chord. So if we're playing a G7, right, 1, 2, 3, 4, we go up a half step. So that's the sharp 4, and then we play a C sharp minor on this G7 chord. So you can do this kind of on any chord. If you wanted to play this on a C7, right, go 1, 2, 3, 4, play the sharp 4, make this a F sharp minor chord. There it is, right? And it sounds better if you kind of voice the chord closer. Right? Sounds a lot better. Now this is called an upper structure chord. It's basically like a major chord in the right hand, or it could be a minor chord that you're playing on a dominant 7 chord. And there are several upper structure triads that sound amazing that you can use on a dominant chord, like an E flat major triad, or a D flat major triad, or an E major triad. So you can actually learn a lot of these upper structure triads in our upper structures course over at pianowithjonny.com. I'll teach you all the upper structures plus how you can use them in your chord progressions. I'll put a link to that below if you're interested in doing a deep dive on this topic. Now, this chord sounds amazing, but how do you actually use this in a chord progression? Well, that's what I want to show you next. I want to take a very basic progression and just show you how you can sort of transform it to use this gorgeous chord. And so we're going to use this chord progression. We have C major, C7, so it's a dominant 7 chord. This usually goes to a 4 chord like F major. And then we're going to go to a 2 chord, and instead of like a D minor like this, we're going to make it a dominant 7 chord. This is really common in jazz to make your 2 chord dominant. And then on the 5 chord, we're going to go to a G7, but we're going to sus it. This is really common to kind of make this chord sound a little more interesting. And then we'll go to our G7, and then we'll go back to C major, and then our G7 chord. Okay, so once more, C major, C7, F, D7, G7 sus4, G7, C, and then back to G, okay? So how would you take this somewhat ordinary chord progression and make it sound gorgeous using this chord? Well, check it out, okay? Here's the transformation. Doesn't that sound amazing? And again, this is really just using this chord in the context of this chord progression, and I am coloring some of my other chords, but the real trick here is on those dominant 7 chords and what I'm doing. Okay, so let's quickly walk through this chord progression. I kind of want to show you how I'm transforming these chords. So C6-9, ooh, doesn't that sound pretty? It's a standard C6-9 chord, C6 with the 9, kind of spreading it out, and then here's the money chord. Gorgeous. This is the chord that I taught you. It's a C7, okay? But I've got the 13, the flat 9, and the sharp 11. And once again, what's the trick? F sharp minor over C7, okay? That's all that it is, okay? And then I like to put the E in the right hand, and I like to roll the chord. So I'm rolling the chord up, gives it kind of a lush sound, and then I put a little melody note in here. Ooh, gorgeous F major 9 chord. Check that one out. Okay, F major 9. It's basically an F major 7 chord. I'm adding the 9. And then I'm putting a lot of the notes in my right hand. I'm kind of clustering it. That sounds gorgeous. And then here's that D7. Sounds so good. Love the sound. So it's a D7, right? Adding flat 9, sharp 11, 13. And once again, if this is too much to think about, or if you're kind of new to jazz, it's a D dominant 7 chord, and then we're playing a G sharp minor triad on the top. That's it. Okay, little melody note. Here's our G7 sus. I'm adding some notes to this chord. Okay, I'm adding a 9, I'm adding a 13. Okay, it's a kind of interesting way of playing a G7 sus. And then the money chord, sounds so good. G7, okay, flat 9, sharp 11, 13. Once again, it's a C sharp minor with the G7 on the bottom, okay? And then back to our C. It's our C6-9, playing it kind of simply, and then back to our G13, sharp 11, flat 9 chord, okay? Now you might be thinking, Johnny, what are all these notes that you're adding to the chords? And there's basically 2 categories that all of these notes fall into. They're either a chord extension or a chord alteration. So for example, on the C chord, you know, this D is an extended note. It comes from the C major scale. And the 6th, the A, you can think of as a chord extension. But on these dominant chords, right, this F sharp and the, you know, D flat, flat 9, sharp 11, these are called altered notes or alterations. And there's certain combinations of altered notes and extended notes that we like to put on chords. If you want to learn more about these topics, I'm going to put a link down below to our chord extensions course and our chord alterations course. You can learn all of the extensions I use, all of the alterations I use, and kind of how to use them in your chord progressions. Okay, final step here. Let's put the whole thing together. C6-9. You can revoice your chord if you want. You can change the order of the notes. There's a C7, F major, D13, sharp 11, flat 9, G13 sus4, G13 sharp 11, flat 9, C6, 9, and back to our G chord. All right, my friends, thank you so much for watching this quick tip. If you enjoyed the lesson, please let me know in the comments. And be sure to check out pianowithjonny.com. We have over 1,000 step-by-step lessons for all playing levels where you'll learn your favorite songs, styles, and how to improvise at the piano. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.